I'm here today at Bailey's of Bromsgrove. The date is the 4th and the 1st, 24, with Jack Bayley. Say hi.
Hello.
So we're just going to get straight into it, I think. How have you managed to keep your hospitality business thriving through times like COVID and the cost of living crisis? And how did it really affect your business?
So when we came up with the concept and we started, it was very early on in the kind of like the craft beer journey, and kind of that divided our business up into three. So you've got the bar side, which is obviously the on trade. We've got all our off sale products, which is all off trade, so like a traditional bottle shop would be. And then because we would be a bottle shop and we'd be open during the daytime anyway, we were like, we might as well tag a higher level of coffee into that for the area. There just wasn't that available at the time when we opened. So that kind of divided our business into three, spread the risk a little bit so we could pick and choose what we kept, which we invested in, which we pushed. So we had a bit of a fail-safe there, but they all came together very well, and they've kind of all lasted as strong as each other. So when it came to, so we opened in 2017, we took the lease in 2016, but didn't really have any capital behind us to be able to do that, so it took us 12 months to open. It took us a long time. So while we were doing that, we would see a lot of people like popping their head in, just kind of like natural, organic promotion through word of mouth, through people just being inquisitive and just having a little look in. Me and George are both from Bromsgrove, so we've got like a big friendship group here, which was partially one of the reasons why we ended up taking a lease in Bromsgrove, because if everything went wrong, we would just have somewhere for our friends to drink. So that was also the fallback. But we opened in December 2017, and from the get-go, the evening trade was very busy. So kind of our USP, I suppose, would be that kind of like that craft beer corner, where that's not really on offer anywhere else, even still in town today. That's what we kind of specialise in, and that is our primary focus. That was good and bad, but because it was different, it made it very interesting for people. So we had that kind of like that continuous footfall of people coming through the door. The coffee side came later, as well as the off sale. The whole kind of new style of beers coming into the area was a lot of educating. So we spent a lot of time educating people about different beer styles, what was available, what was happening with all these American beer styles that were coming over to the UK at the time. People traditionally were used to a very clear, non-carbonated beer. Ours were the polar opposite, bright yellow, can't see through them, and they're carbonated, so they're fizzy. So you get a lot of the traditional ale drinkers thinking it's not good beer, it's bad beer. So there was a lot of educating people to get them into it, but that's towed us over the line. And then because we had that as a USP, and we had the off-sale, when things like COVID happened, we could foresee that happening. Saw all the other kind of countries closing down, so we decided to open a web store. So when we were closed in the March, I think it was, the following week after being closed, we had a web store go live, which we then took out and did deliveries. So myself and George didn't actually go on furlough. We worked throughout the whole thing, which was really good, because it allowed us to continuously engage with our regular customer base. And it also put us on the radar for a lot of other people who didn't know that we were in Bromsgrove or what we did, but it kind of gave them a chance to have a little bit of the Bailey's experience at home. And then when everything slowly went back to normal, we started seeing those people coming through the door who were using us through COVID, which was really nice. And COVID was like obviously a hard time for a lot of people, but it really helped us strengthen our position within the community, which was really good. And then when we reopened from COVID, we've just been slowly kind of taking baby steps. We have such a broad customer base of people, as any market town does, where we weren't comfortable just taking that initial leap of going, yeah, everything's back to normal. So you got the older generation who didn't want to go back to normal for a long time, and we had this opportunity of doing table service, which we kept, and we still do today, which we're starting to see that everything is going back to how it was before. So we're going to start fading that out and going back to having events and doing everything that we did pre-COVID, so we can kind of get the business back to where it was. But yeah, it's been good. Along that way, we've had a great team throughout the whole thing, and we keep adding to it. Don't just have random people coming to work. It's like a really nice, close-knit team. And again, that is one of the other kind of keys to the success of it all, really, is everybody has their own relationship with the customers. It's not just me and George who have those relationship. It's kind of all the guys who work for us have those personal relationships with those customers. And yeah, it's that gives people a reason to come back, I suppose.
I like it. That was really good. Thank you.
Sorry, that was a bit longer than...
No, that was really good. That's exactly what I need. So I was also wondering, recently, obviously the rate of inflation has kind of increased exponentially. Yep. How has that affected your custom, your business?
So we've kind of taken we've taken an approach with it, with using kind of all our elements of being an independent, really. So obviously hospitality has had a real rough ride the last few years. Probably the toughest time for hospitality and leisure industries within recent times, kind of like maybe a long time. Fundamentally, what happens in that kind of scenario is you look at your amenities within an area, you look at what's available, you look at what people have to spend, you look at all these different trends, and kind of you need to figure out a way of navigating through all of that. And the way that we did that was through identifying that every time somebody goes out and spends some money somewhere, that kind of trend leans towards the experience that that person has. So nothing's ever going to be new. Nobody's going to reinvent the wheel, especially in these kind of climates. Nobody's going to take that risk to change things completely. But you get this kind of huge gap of like customer service and the experience that the customer has within hospitality. A lot of hospitality can be faceless, a lot of hospitality can be big venues where that relationship, that personal relationship, that customer experience gets lost. That's for those bigger venues to deal with, that's for them to kind of find their own feet and navigate through that themselves. But with being completely free of tie product-wise and having that kind of that USP of different beers and the specialty coffee, it meant that we can control what we're buying, and we can put deals in place with those little breweries in order to be able to keep the cost down that we're buying at. And instead of kind of just using that gap and taking a massive buffer to be able to clear a profit at the end of the year, we've passed that saving on. So we've always had the stance with we want to be kind of like the neighbourhood's living room. So we want everybody to walk through that door, feel like they're at home, be really comfortable. And the way in which that we needed to be able to do that was for it to be affordable and to be approachable. So you would see that same customer multiple times a week. Instead of it being a treat at the end of the month, where you see that person once a month, we wanted to see that person on a morning for a coffee, after work for a pint, out with their mates on a weekend. So we're going to see that person multiple times throughout that week or that day, potentially, depending on kind of where they're at within the town. And we've been very lucky to be able to achieve that. So keeping costs as affordable as we can, so we're passing those savings on, and having that kind of that higher level of experience, that customer interaction, that friendly vibe, friendly faces, familiarity, I suppose, and like when those people come through the door, there's a high chance that they'll bump into other people that they know or other people that they've met here. And if they don't have that, then they've got their own relationship with the staff. So it provides such a platform for those people to be able to come through and have that experience when they're coming out. They're not just coming out for a beer or an after-work pint. They're coming out to hang out with friends. And that's kind of, we've been very lucky to be able to achieve that. And I think that's how we've navigated it so far. Nobody knows what will happen in the future or where things will ever get to. But if we continue doing what we're doing and we've got the support of all our kind of regulars and all our new customers, we're still seeing a lot of new customers. As long as we maintain that level of experience, everybody gets that higher level of experience, then we will be alright. I think. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
I know.
Amazing. I was going to say as well, your story is kind of a little bit unusual just in the fact that you run this with your brother, you started this with your brother.
Yep.
How has that been, like from start to now?
Testing at times. No, it's been great really. I mean, to be able to come up with a concept which hadn't really been done before and to have like the support from your family to be able to want to get behind you on that and get involved in the project was amazing anyway. And then to be able to kind of have a great relationship with my brother and then be able to turn that into a working relationship has been great. And that's saved a lot of hassle for our kind of, especially through the early years when we first opened, it was just the two of us. And kind of it was a graft, it was hard, and it's not something that I would ever take on lightly again, but kind of like, you know, doing those long days, open, closing isn't rare in hospitality, but to expect that of somebody for so long is, but because it was ours, we didn't have a choice really, you know, we even today when we employ people, we don't employ people just to take them on for a few hours here and there and then get rid of them. We want somebody to come with us, grow with us and stay with us for as long as they need to be with us really. So yeah, it's been it's definitely evolved, and kind of like our jobs within the business has evolved. Obviously we've grown. We've got the bricks and mortar site, we've got 2 trucks which go out to different events, so we put it up with a wedding venue, and then we've got the other truck which goes out to a high number of food festivals, I did with dining clubs, so on and so forth, and we do all of that. So we've got different avenues in which we've had to kind of learn along the way, and pick up along the way, and all the stuff that we learned together, we've both made it so those skills have both been transferable. So we've been able to just, like a duck to water really, you know, when we opened, we didn't think in a few years we'd have a truck that was going out into a field and serving thousands of people, but fundamentally all the fundamentals that we learned here, that same level of customer experience, we worked out how we could transfer that out onto the trucks and the trailers, and that's helped us to organically grow, which has been really cool. But without us both being kind of like playing those equal roles, I don't know if it would have been as easy or if it would have been as viable as it has been. So yeah, it's been invaluable really.
Yeah.
It's been testing, but it's been invaluable. It's been great. It's good.
Well, that's amazing, because you've obviously built like a very sustainable business model on like the family connection to begin with.
Yeah.
And it does kind of feel like that welcoming family spirit when you walk in here anyway, which
Good.
is very, I think, appreciated by your customer base, I reckon. So my next question, I was thinking about where you're looking for the future, and I know that you're thinking about expanding.
Definitely looking at expanding.
Yeah. New location.
So kind of with going back to what we were saying about the kind of that experience, we've got to a point where we've got an amazing team, and kind of we need to grow as a business in order for those people who have joined us along the way to grow. So we're at a good age to be able to get involved in other projects and to move on. And if we've got people that are willing to come with us on the journey, we want to support that. So we are looking at growing, we are looking at expanding. The thing that does make it really hard is kind of Bromsgrove is where we're from, and kind of we had all that support and all those kind of those crazy times like with COVID and so on and so forth, all within that area. Every high street in the UK has taken such battering, even smaller cities like Worcester, Birmingham to a certain extent, they've all taken such a hit, and like business models for a lot of companies have all changed. And when you kind of go out to these new areas to look at if it would be viable, you don't get a clear representation of what that area is. So it's definitely something which is on the cards, it's just really hard to see the communities in those areas at the moment.
Yeah.
So making that decision of where to go is made 10 times harder. Yeah. So, but it's definitely something which is going to happen. We've got the skills to make it happen. We've got an amazing team, and we've got an amazing customer base. So we've got all the right ingredients. Just got to decide on where we move all of that to. But yeah, it's definitely going to happen. Definitely going to expand, and kind of using all the things that we've learned here, our principles and our morals and our team. We're going to use that to elevate, push forward. So 100%, definitely.
So obviously, I was having a chat to other people, and I know that Bristol has been thrown about.
Bristol has been mentioned. Yeah. So
how does that look? Because obviously, in terms of it being more of a student-based city.
Yeah.
How does that look for Bailey's? Would it be like a similar business model that you're looking at, kind of employing, so to speak?
Yeah. Yes and no. So yeah. So it's a real hard one to kind of determine what we will be whenever we get there. So at the start, I mentioned that we've got the three elements of the business. Although they work in Bromsgrove, that doesn't necessarily mean that all three would work together somewhere else. So, depending on where we go and what we look at, if you use Bristol as an example, depending on kind of where you look at within the city, every little suburb is quite well versed with their own little independent coffee shops, their own little bottle shops, their own kind of like bars. Some have more than others, and that kind of dictates where we look. But Bristol's appealing for us because George went to university in Bristol, and I used to work in Bristol. So we've got a very loose friendship group within Bristol, but we also kind of have a good, sound understanding of how the area works and how the city operates. We also, from doing this for so long, have really good relationships with breweries in those areas. So, yeah, Bristol would be a wise move. Like, it's one of those, it's a bit daunting looking at moving out of a town into a city. You look at other places along the way where you look at like Worcester. Worcester's hard because it's one of those high streets which has taken a real beating, and there's no real plan on the horizon where that looks like it's going to come back in force anytime soon. So that makes it quite hard to want to invest without seeing other people investing. Cheltenham would be an amazing area for us, which we're very keen to get into. It's just that all the real estate in Cheltenham is very sought after. So that's just a bit of a right time, right place kind of scenario. When you kind of go to Bristol and you've got that element of young professionals and two huge universities which bring in so many students, it's such a desirable place to be. You can walk down Bristol High Street or any of the surrounding suburbs of the little towns that make up Bristol, and that you can see the community that has there. So that's quite appealing. Like Birmingham doesn't really have that. You look at all the little areas which used to be thriving. You've got Digbeth, That used to be the epicentre. That has changed so much over the years. With the HS2 project coming in, those areas are kind of going to continue to develop. But for us to be able to go into like a bigger city, which is, you know, the second city, if you will, we almost need all those projects to have been completed to see how all that levels out. We don't have the capital of like these huge chains just to be able to go, let's have a little go there, see if that works. It doesn't work, close the doors, 12 months later. We don't have the luxury of being able to do that, so we just have to be very calculated in where we're going to go. So yeah, the M5 corridor south is kind of what we're thinking realistically. You know, we're slap bang on the motorway and be able to make travel in between each one, to be able to kind of make sure that everything runs as smooth as it could. That is what's taking our kind of logic at the moment.
Yeah. Amazing.
So, yeah, it's all right. It's all right.
Yeah.
I think we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you so much. It's exactly what I wanted. I wanted to really focus on the journey from the start to where we are now. Because obviously it's not done. We're not at the end.
No
But
way. Just getting
so far,
started.
it's
Just
been
getting started.
Such a good story. Especially to see the challenges and hurdles that you've overcome. That's what I really wanted to focus on. So thank you very much. It's
No
exactly
worries.
what I've got. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.